Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In today's video, I'm taking a look at the Tenvis TW888 webcam. Let's get started. So priced at $34.99, the Tenvis TW888 is an entry-level webcam. It films 1080p at 30 frames a second. It does have a built-in noise reduction microphone, and it is truly plug and play. You plug it into your computer and away you go. Inside the box is an instruction manual, a little desktop tripod, and the webcam, which can mount to that little tripod or mount on top of your monitor. The camera features a USB 2.0 cable. Now, screwing in the tripod to the camera, I noticed the tripod didn't really fit all that well in there. The holes were not aligned properly and it didn't come together all the smoothest. You can see there is a gap at the top of the tripod there between the tripod and the camera. When the camera is mounted to the tripod, it still retains its overall maneuverability. For the purposes of this video, I won't be using the tripod. I'll be placing the camera directly on top of my monitor. So I've switched over to the Tenvis webcam, and this is the picture you should expect to get. Setup was extremely easy. It was literally just plug and play. I plugged the USB in, Windows automatically installed the drivers, and I'm good to go. The very first thing I'm noticing about this camera though is the wide angle fisheye lens. It's a very interesting lens. I do have a solid shelf above my desk, but the camera kind of bends that a little bit. If I do twist the camera up, the shelf should straighten out just a little bit. It's a very interesting overall fisheye lens, and I don't necessarily know if I like it. It is nice that it's very wide angle though. Right now I'm using default settings on the Tenvis. I haven't changed anything. I have quite a bit of light in this room when I do my filming, and I'm noticing right now that I'm getting a little bit washed out. So what I'm going to do now is try to tinker around with the settings to see if that helps. So here are the settings up and ready to go. Everything is set to default, and I'll click default just to double check. I am a little bit washed out and I'm noticing the color is a little cool. So I'm going to try to warm that up just a little bit. But as soon as I uncheck the white balance here, it completely screws up the picture. I can't even replicate what it was before. It's almost like the auto setting here has a completely different overall setting that you can't achieve on your own. Flipping over to the camera control settings, and I'm noticing that this does not have any sort of zoom capabilities nor autofocus capabilities. On top of that, the low light compensation's on, so I will take that off because my room right now is extremely bright. And the auto exposure is on as well. So I'll take that off to see if that helps. It darkened the picture just a little bit, but it's not giving me the levels that I'm looking for. Now I'm going to try this camera with different types of lighting. So I've reset the settings back to default here. I will turn off a light to see if the darkness helps out the picture just a little bit. And I'll turn off the other light to my other side here and see if this helps. So I'm noticing that the camera does not like bright lights necessarily right above it shining into me. The glare on my head has gone and it does look a little bit better. So now I've turned off all the light in the room. The only light that is here is what's on my screen. I do have 3 monitors and they are shining pretty bright into my face. You'll notice right away that the frame rate has taken a bit of a hit. It's a little choppy, which is to be expected considering now the camera is dealing with a pretty low light situation. I will turn off one of the monitors here and you'll see immediately the frame rate might get a little bit worse. My coloring might get a little bit worse because the camera has far less light to work with. I'm noticing that the video is getting a little bit grainy, but at the same time, I'm impressed at how the camera is handling the low light. So now I'm going to shut off a second monitor, leaving only one monitor left turned on. In this situation, you can see I am barely visible. Frame rate is still surprisingly good and the camera isn't struggling all that much. It's obviously hard to see me, but I'm really surprised that the frame rate hasn't dropped substantially. So I brought up my Logitech Stream Cam, which is my main camera I use for my YouTube channel, and it's about 5 times the price of the Tenvis. Now the frame rate on the Logitech Stream Cam is obviously a lot better. It's 60 frames a second versus 30 on the Tenvis. But the coloration here on low light situations is much better on the Tenvis. It's very interesting. I've now turned all my monitors on and the only light in this room is still just from my monitors. I'm noticing that the Tenvis is still holding its own. The brightness over here is really impressive. Obviously, it doesn't look as natural as the stream cam, but it still looks pretty darn good. I've just turned all of the lights back on and I'm noticing right away that I'm a little bit blown out on the Tenvis camera. So here I am on the Logitech stream cam, and while I'm talking, I'll flip it over to the Tenvis camera and you should see an immediate difference. So I've just spent about a half hour playing around with the settings on the Tenvis camera, and this is the best picture I can get, which is very interesting because on a lot of cameras, taking them off the auto setting and manually configuring things generally results in a better picture. But for the Tenvis camera, the auto settings seem to be the best. For the next test, I'm going to put this into streamer or YouTube or Zoom call mode where the picture isn't necessarily zoomed in. A lot of the time, YouTubers, myself especially, like to be on the side of the screen and not the main focal point. So what I'll do here is just trim the sides off because they don't need to be in the picture. I'll trim the top down a little bit, maybe trim this side down a little bit more. And then I will shrink the picture and you should see the detail improve ever so slightly. Or you just don't notice the imperfections when the camera is this small. What I'll do now is pull up my green screen, turn on my green screen effects, and use this camera as if I was doing a YouTube video. All right, green screen is up, chroma key effects have been applied, and the camera is good to go. I'm still noticing that I am quite washed out and really cool in color. It's not a very warm color from this camera, and I can't get it to exactly where I like it, but you know, it is what it is on this camera. It is only $34.99, so it's not really an expensive camera overall. And it looks like there's a coupon on there right now to get an extra $12 off. Now, in terms of picture and color, I don't necessarily like the fisheye effect, and I don't like the coloration from this camera, and I can't get it to where I actually like it. But at the same time, this camera does perform extremely well in low light conditions. Now, speaking of YouTube and streaming and Zoom calls, this also has a built-in microphone in case you don't have your own microphone on the side. So let's test that out now. So here is the microphone from the camera, or microphones. The Amazon ad here says dual mic and noise reduction. Hopefully this is somewhat clear. What I'll do now is switch over to the mic from my Logitech Stream Cam just as a comparison. So now I have switched over to the microphone in the Logitech Stream Cam. Again, the Stream Cam is 5 times as much as the Tenvis, and maybe you'll hear a difference between the two mics, maybe you won't. Webcams are notorious for having bad microphones. So now for my overall thoughts on the Tenvis TW888. First and foremost, if you are picking up this camera, I would highly recommend picking up a microphone, any microphone, to use instead of the built-in microphone on the camera. The built-in mic on the camera is not that great, and pretty much any microphone out there should do a better job. Secondly, if you are looking for a camera where you can really customize your settings and get the most out of your camera, this is not the camera for you. I found that the automatic settings were actually the best settings by a wide margin. Anything I tried to do manually ruined the picture and made it worse. And on the topic of picture, this camera does not like a lot of light, which is very interesting. A lot of web cameras out there love light. The more light, the better in pretty much most cases. But for this camera, that's not the case. This camera works extremely well in low light conditions, but in conditions where it's bright as all get out, this camera struggles mightily. I've just turned all of the lights off in my room except one, and the picture has gotten a lot better. And that brings me to the good parts about this camera. In low light conditions, this camera thrives. It does extremely well. If you have a room and you don't necessarily have access to lights that point right on your face, maybe you don't have access to a window or an overhead light that really illuminates you for the camera, this camera will be absolutely fine just using the light from your monitor, which is extremely impressive. In my opinion, it was easier to see myself in the Tenvis than it was in the Logitech Stream Cam using only the light from my monitors. And the other positive about this camera was the fact that it was plug and play. It was extremely easy to set up and get going with this camera, considering all I really had to do was just plug it in. And that's a huge plus for some people. So overall, if you don't mind the fisheye look here, you aren't going to be using the microphone and you just need a webcam that works, then this might be the webcam for you. It's $35 with a $12 off coupon to bring the price down to $23. In my opinion, if you just want something that's easy, that works, this might be for you. In terms of overall reliability, I don't know, I wouldn't hold my breath, but at the same time, if something goes wrong, it's only 23 or 35 bucks. But anyways, that is all I've got for today. Huge shout out to Tenvis for providing this camera for review. Let me know what you think about the Tenvis camera, the TW888, in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.